लिए मैंने तुम्हें मौसी का स्वागत करेंगे, आपकी करेगा और सीट गेस्ट का बता देगा ना।
कई नौजवान आते हैं कि साहब मुझे भारतीय सेना में नौकरी चाहिए। मैं उन्हें यही बोलता हूँ कि भारतीय सेना नौकरी का साधन नहीं है। नौकरी लेनी है तो रेलवे में जाइए, पीएचडी में जाइए और बहुत से जरिए हैं, अपना ओन बिजनेस खोलिए। अगर भारतीय सेना में आना है तो कठिनाइयों का सामना करने के लिए आपको काबिल होना पड़ेगा। आपके मानसिक और शारीरिक रूप से काबिल होना पड़ेगा। हर एक जवान को ये सिखलाई दी जाती है कि आप जिस भी कार्य को करने जा रहे हैं, आपने इन 5 शब्दों को ध्यान में रखना है। वो है नाम, नमक, निशान, वफादारी और इज्जत।
जैसे ही सर एंटर करेंगे और लाइटिंग लैम्प के लिए
I just got to the bedside table and I saw a small booklet in which he had written Gurwali words. So, good to know that note of you want to learn.
The strategy has lost a great general, a great leader of India. There is one man who was always very confident, very confident.
Good afternoon.
For him nothing mattered but the nation. But he was always a person who was very, very forward-looking and who was very determined to achieve the result and whatever it was. But more than a great soldier and more than a great hero and a great planner and a great thinker, he was also a great human being.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. It gives us immense pleasure to welcome you all as we celebrate the 66th Chief of Defence Staff, General Bipin Rawat. I would now request our chief guest, India's National Security Advisor, Shri Ajit Doval, to please proceed to start the evening by lighting of the lamp. I would also request other esteemed guests who are joining us today to please proceed to pay our respects and homage to late General Bipin Rawat. With us today this afternoon, Vice Chief of Air Staff. I would request Shri R.K.S. Bhadoria to also felicitate Chief of Defence Staff, General Anil Chauhan, by handing over the bouquet. I would now request Senior Editor of Aaj Tak, Shri Manjeet Negi, to welcome the daughter of late General Bipin Rawat, Ms. Tali Rawat. स्वर्गीय जनरल बिपिन रावत जी की सोच को अक्षुण्ण रखने और आगे ले जाने के उद्देश्य से उनसे जुड़े हम सभी लोगों ने जीबीआर मेमोरियल फाउंडेशन का गठन किया है। आज इस मौके पर जीबीआर मेमोरियल फाउंडेशन ऑफ इंडिया को आधिकारिक रूप से लॉन्च किया जा रहा है। हमारा मानना है कि जनरल बिपिन रावत सिर्फ एक व्यक्ति का नाम नहीं बल्कि और विजन का नाम है। उन्होंने जीवन भर देश के सेनाओं और युवाओं को राष्ट्र निर्माण से जोड़ने के मिशन में योगदान दिया। इस मौके पर हम जनरल बिपिन रावत जी पर बनी एक फिल्म का प्रदर्शन करना चाहेंगे, जिसके माध्यम से हमें उन्हें और करीब से
कई नौजवान आते हैं कि सर मुझे भारतीय सेना में नौकरी चाहिए। मैं उन्हें यही बोलता हूं कि भारतीय सेना नौकरी का साधन नहीं है। नौकरी लेनी है तो रेलवेज में जाइए, पीएनटी में जाइए और बहुत से जरिए हैं, अपना ओन बिजनेस खोल लीजिए। अगर भारतीय सेना में आना है तो कठिनाइयों का सामना करने के लिए आपको काबिल होना पड़ेगा, आपको मानसिक और शारीरिक रूप से काबिल होना पड़ेगा।
हर एक जवान को ये सिखलाई दी जाती है कि आप जिस भी कार्य को करने जा रहे हैं, आपने इन 5 शब्दों को ध्यान में रखना है। वो है नाम, नमक, निशान, वफादारी और इज्जत।
Papa was actually trying to learn Garhwali, and I think yesterday for some work I had just gone to his bedside table and I saw a small booklet in which he had written Garhwali words. So it's good to know that, even he had small notes of he wanted to learn a new language, or he wanted to learn Garhwali and all. And to see that little pad with his handwritten notes.
हनुमान तेह परसा कर पुनि कीन प्रणाम, राम काज कीन है बिनु मोहे कहां विश्राम। मैंने जनरल बिपिन रावत के कार्यकाल को इन्हीं लाइनों में देखा, जब हनुमान जी कहते हैं कि जब तक वो सीता माता का पता नहीं कर लेते उन्हें विश्राम नहीं है। तो बिपिन रावत ने भी चीफ ऑफ डिफेंस स्टाफ पर रहते हुए अपने कार्य को इसी धारणा के साथ धारण किया।
He was GOC 3 Corps when India first time struck across its borders and carried out the first surgical strikes. He was the vice chief to General Suhag when the Uri surgical strikes were carried out in 28 or 29 September 2016. And thereafter he was the chief of army staff during the long standoff in Doklam when General Bhatt, who is sitting here, he was the DGMO between 16th of June to 28th of August 2016 again. And he was chief of army staff during the Balakot strikes. And we all know about Balakot strikes, but post Balakot strikes, that management of that escalation which took place between us and Pakistan, that was far more important. And we had a senior officer to guide us all during that time. That was of immense importance. However, all this thing, in my view, pales in comparison for what he did for. So whatever relative peace we enjoy today in J&K is, to, in my view at least, is a fallout of what he did actually as a chief of army staff. A bit of a hardline kind of an approach, but I think that was required at that particular time.
The country has lost a great patriot, a visionary, a strategic thinker. Indian Army has lost a great general, a great leader of the Indian Army. Here is one man who was always very positive, very optimistic. For him nothing mattered but the nation. But he was always a person who was very, very forward-looking and who was very determined to achieve the results and whatever it may be the cost. But more than a great soldier and more than a great hero and a great planner and a military thinker, he was also a great human being.
Officially launched the General Bipin Rawat Memorial Foundation of India, which has been founded in honor and respect of India's first Chief of Defence Staff, General Bipin Rawat. इस साल 9 मार्च को जनरल बिपिन रावत की पावन स्मृति में पौड़ी गढ़वाल जिले में उनकी एक मूर्ति और 80 फीट लंबा तिरंगा एवं पार्क का रक्षा एवं पर्यटन राज्य मंत्री तारिणी रावत ने उद्घाटन किया था। यह इको पार्क ताना राइफल्स और जीबीआर मेमोरियल फाउंडेशन ऑफ इंडिया के सहयोग से 4 धाम की थीम पर बनाया गया है। आइए देखते हैं इस कार्यक्रम की कुछ झलकियां।
हमारे बीच आज के मुख्य अतिथि केंद्रीय रक्षा और पर्यटन राज्य मंत्री अजय भट्ट जी मौजूद हैं। ये 16 मार्च को देश के प्रथम सीडीएस जनरल बिपिन रावत जी का जन्मदिन है। उससे पहले आज हमने यहाँ पर ग्राम तल्ला बनास और लौसित वनवासी हनुमान जी के प्रांगण में एक तिरंगा पार्क और जनरल रावत की एक मूर्ति स्थापित की, जिसका अनावरण आज रक्षा राज्य मंत्री अजय भट्ट जी, जो कि नैनीताल के हमारे माननीय सांसद भी हैं, उनके कर कमलों से हुआ। हमारे बीच में स्वर्गीय जनरल बिपिन रावत की सुपुत्री तारिणी मौजूद हैं।
एक इतिहास यहाँ पर आज रचा, पर्यटक की दृष्टि से भी रहेगा।
सीडीएस रहे बतौर उन्होंने भी छीन लिया। 8 दिसंबर 2021 को वे अपनी पत्नी मधुलिका रावत और 12 अन्य वीर अफसरों और जवानों के साथ एक हेलीकॉप्टर दुर्घटना में मृत्यु का शिकार हो गए। जनरल बिपिन रावत की कोशिश कश्मीर में आतंकवाद की कमर तोड़ने की सफल राजनीति, इन सभी का श्रेय उन्हें जाता है। सेना में महिलाओं को स्थायी तौर पर शामिल करने का फैसला भी उनके कार्यकाल में हुआ। Late General Bipin Rawat was also a sports March 1958 in Uttarakhand's Pauri district. His father, Lieutenant General Lakshman Singh Rawat, retired as the Deputy Chief of the Army in Dehradun. He went on to join the National Defence Academy in Khadakwasla and Dehradun's Indian Military Academy. He was also commissioned into the 5th Battalion of the 11th Gorkha Rifles in 1979. General Rawat was one of the most decorated cadets of his batch. The thoughts and...
Here, very good evening. At the outset, I want to thank NSA for really taking out his time. It is a very special and emotional moment and connect for the GBR Foundation itself to be inaugurated by your hands, and we really can't thank you enough for being here and for inaugurating the GBR Foundation. As you could see, there is so much of attention and love that has gone behind that. The foundation, the opening stuff was packed so tightly and neatly that it took time to open. So everybody here has come with special attachment to General Rawat, and that is the spirit that we want to carry forward when we remember him. General Rawat was not only a personal friend but a colleague and a real military thinker who really contributed immensely towards modernization of army when he was the army chief, apart from the tremendous contribution in his earlier appointments. And as Chief of Defence Staff towards modernization of the 3 services, towards restructuring and integration of the services, and towards everything that was required to be done to convert the services and get them future ready. And his loss in a tragic accident, and it's not only to all of us in the military, to the military hero, a national hero, and loss beyond our boundaries too. So in order to really carry forward his legacy for his contributions to the military prowess and essentially towards the strategic capability of the country, we after the first memorial lecture in 22 on his birth anniversary said that we would carry forward this theme of doing a memorial lecture on his birth anniversary. This is the 3rd one, and we thank you, sir, for agreeing to give all in every way possible, especially the underprivileged, the people with lesser means, and people in remote areas who, in spite of means, don't have the support system. So while we are starting this focus from Uttarakhand in order to start it from his native place and grow outwards, this will essentially be an effort pan-India on the national front as we grow as a foundation, and target to firstly across the board provide support in skilling to the youth, for social and economic support, for financial support, and support for all kinds of training and systems in order to prepare the eligible and the youth who are ready towards entry into defense services and civil services, and for the youth who are not into this domain, for any domain of their choice. So the matrix is quite wide, and we really hope that we will be able to do justice, because everybody who has agreed to join into this foundation has joined voluntarily and has already contributed a lot towards doing some of the preparatory work that has already gone on, even without a kind of fund being established, more or less on voluntary basis. And some result of that you saw in the form of the Tiranga Park inauguration and many of the events that have taken place. So as a foundation, we want to urge all of you in your own capacities and in your own areas of expertise and domains to contribute with us or to join with us in any way which
Command. As Chief of Eastern Command, under his guidance, the concept of integrated battle groups in the 17 Corps is finally taking shape. During the Chinese deadlock, he also took up the responsibility of the entire eastern region of the country. Commissioned to the 11th Gorkha Ratan, he has been awarded the Vishish Seva Medal, the
Respected National Security Advisor, Shri Ajit Doval, Air Chief Marshal Bhaduria, Shri Manjeet Negi, Tarari Rawat, distinguished guests, officers, gentlemen and ladies. Manjeet had asked me to speak on India's move towards higher defense reforms, and the spirit of creating something new is there, and there is a changed mindset. I believe all of this will propel us to the next generation of reforms. I think the armed forces today are at the cusp of this major change and transformation. Heraclitus, an ancient Greek philosopher, had said that the change is only constant in life. Change is part of nature, it's part of natural environment. It is necessary to survive. Here I like to quote Charles Darwin, who in his seminal work, Origin of Species, had said that variation, inheritance, selection, timing, and adaptation are necessary for any species to survive. I would like to translate this into Hindi to bring out the import and the importance of this particular quote. Parivartan, विरासत, चयन, समय, अनुकूलन किसी भी परिजाति को के अस्तित्व को बताने के लिए अनिवार्य है. What Darwin said in his theory of natural selection was true for organisms. I think that it's equally true for organizations. This is true for hierarchical and structured tradition-bound organizations like the armed forces. In the process of natural selection, the change in the species is gradual, it's slow, and it's also automatic. In organizations, we'll have to be imaginative, innovative, that armed forces should be prepared to fight the future war and not the past one. The future of war, I believe, is changing, and changing rather fast. It's difficult to predict the trajectory of future wars with accuracy, as it does not follow a linear kind of progression at times due to convergence of disruptive technologies. However, some trends can be predicted, and I'll basically attempt that. I think firstly, the future wars will be multi-domain operations, merging the old domains of land, air and maritime with the new domains of cyber, space and electromagnetic spectrum. Secondly, there will be convergence of kinetic, non-kinetic along with the cognitive domain, that's the informational domain, in application of force. Technologies like artificial intelligence, machine learning, data analytics, smart networks, edge computing will propel the current paradigm of or whatever we say is information superiority in operations to decision superiority in future battles. Battlefield transparency and situational awareness will reach new heights and new levels. This is predicted on proliferation of sensors. Means if we see today, God has given us all, means we are about 8 billion people and there may be about 16 billion eyes actually, God-given sensors on this earth. The number of sensors which man has produced has probably crossed that. They are available on all your smartphones, all your laptops, all your PCs, they are there on roads, they are there on satellites, they are ubiquitous and they may be more than what God has produced. So in such kind of a warfare, there is nothing like camouflage, concealment, feints, and physical deception. All these things are they are part. The fifth major change, which I think there will be gaps, and it will be difficult to protect large and static platforms. There will be a major change in future. Long back, critical in future. The trends of warfare dictate that we create organizational structures that are integrated and joint for multi-domain operations. We should be able to offer a credible response across the spectrum of operations, and I believe the spectrum of operations will range from what I call as 5 C's, that is competition, confrontation, crisis, conflict, and combat. And combat means war, in an integrated and a cohesive kind of manner. The foundation of integrated and future-ready operational structures rests on 2 fundamental principles: jointness and integration. Jointness, it can be defined as the spirit of working together, a congenial kind of an atmosphere, removing mistrust that exists between the 3 services. This, in my view, has been achieved to a large extent, and this year, at least, I would be trying to do something on joint culture. We are all aware that the past 77 years or so, the 3 services have grown almost independently, creating their own fiefdoms, their own capabilities, and along with it, their own culture. So today we have a culture of the Army, the Air Force, and the Navy. There is nothing known as a joint culture in the services. I think unless we create this joint culture, we cannot expect the joint organization that we create for warfighting to survive or to do efficiently well. So that should be an important step, and we will try and create this kind of a 4th culture in the armed forces, which is joint culture, to work together. Creating culture means, we all know, it takes some amount of time, but without this, there is no way forward. The next is integration. This is a physical process. It involves selection and incorporation of the best practices among the 3 services. When we incorporate the best practices in the 3 services, we are looking at the highest common denominator and not at the lowest common denominator, highest common factor. We have identified about 9 verticals for integrating the 3 services. It's a physical process, which I said. It deals with operations of intelligence. Out a number of single services exercise which had been converted into bi-service or tri-service kind of exercise. Recently, you would have seen exercise Vayu Shakti. The name was Vayu Shakti, but there was participation of all the 3 services into this exercise. And a couple of days back, you would have seen the Bharat Shakti demonstration into firm orders and instructions to provide some kind of an endurance to this particular effort. The further reforms in organizational and operational structures will require some changes in higher defense organization. It will also require development of new concepts and commensurate doctrines for carrying out joint operations. Induction of new capabilities and technologies like drones, hypersonics, net centricity will necessitate review of conflicts. It will require generation of new thoughts and ideas in the institutes of higher learning. Some course correction towards this end is already on. Next, I would like to speak about Agniveer scheme. This is again a kind of a transformative scheme that at least strengthens the commanding officer who are at the cutting edge of combat. And here, these officers have a choice in the selection of people who think they will retain with themselves for actual combat. I think we are strengthening that commanding officer at the cutting edge, and the scheme has many more and more foreign products will form strategic partnerships with India, and this will lead to better utilization of the defense budget. Improved research and development coupled with coming of age of indigenous defense production will make us self-reliant and reduce dependencies on global supply chains. Local manufacturing will also help create employment opportunities for hundreds of people. In conclusion, I would like to say that in the histories of nations, there comes a turning point when nations grab that moment and achieve the impossible. The Japanese post-war economic miracle after World War II and the Germans' reconstruction ready to take off to a next orbit of development. Our Vision 2047 is to become a Viksit Bharat. Viksit Bharat, in my view, has also to be a Shashakt Bharat. We need to conceptualize the future and create it as we want it. As the armed forces, we need to think ahead, crystal gaze, as we visualize future warfare in future and chalk out bold, ambitious and transformative agenda. Military and defense reforms that are being attempted are just a stepping stone and part of the larger change that we want to implement, and we become a future-ready armed force. So, as I said in the beginning, what I am trying to attempt is what General Bipin Rawat started and initiated. I hope I succeed. I think it will make.
During the pandemic, it was Mr. Doval who, through his remarkable strategy and thinking, was able to convince America to proceed. We will now request our esteemed chief guest, Shri Ajit Doval ji, to kindly take the stage and address the gathering.
Thank you very much.
Former Air Chief Marshal, Chief of Defence Staff, General Chauhan, Tarini Rawat, Manjit Negi, very distinguished professionals, senior generals here present, and also of the yesteryears with some of whom I had the pleasure of working. A person who was the first, not only the first Chief of the Defence Staff, but an icon, but a symbol of something that we considered as a symbol of perfection in soldiering. He was born on this day 66 years back. Ideas and thoughts and vision which still he could have contributed a lot. So in a way it's a sad day, at the same time it's also a day for us to remember and thank him for all that he did for the nation. I'm happy that much is being done to commemorate his memory. Formation of this foundation is a very good ability thinking about the changing pattern of the conflicts, about the new frontiers of the technologies, supply chains, the economies, which are all going to affect the strategic scenario. They are all very important, and they are all very important, and we are all this thing. This is not a platform, and of course, it's not a place for me to tell about the strategic issues. But I'd like to share a very small thought. And the small thought is, why do we fight the wars? Is it to grab the territory? I'm talking in today's context. Is it to kill the people? What is the purpose and objective? It is actually we fight the wars to bring peace on our terms. And what is the most important ingredient of a nation that adds to his power? What is that we want to break the enemies? How do we bring him to agree to peace on our terms? We break his willpower. An army or the defense forces are one of the major instruments through which the willpower of the enemy is broken. Through coercive methods, and besides coercive methods, there can be other methods as well. Coercive capability, they have got to equip themselves, they have to have the future mark ahead for the Agniveers, or the Agniveers who come out of the army. Servicemen, etc., probably they are. So, during my discussion, of course, not with the Prime Minister Netanyahu and others, but besides that, when I was talking to the professionals of my districts, their chiefs of various services and others, I told them, is there any lesson for us to take? And it was a very interesting comment that their NSA made. He said, you should be prepared for a surprise. But then he added, he said, if you are prepared for that. Only a people with a certain mindset are prepared for that. And you have to inculcate that habit. Find that it's your gut feeling. It's your instinct that matters, and that instinct is not something which is non-scientific. It's a highly scientific thing that comes with a tremendous amount of this thing. And Vidoria and Manjeet and all others who are the office bearers of that, I saw their list. I wish them a wonderful time. And
our guests to kindly take your seats. As we draw to an end, I would request senior editor of Aaj Tak.
रामचरितमानस के एक दोहे से शुरू तुलसीदास जी कहते हैं कि ता कहो प्रभु कुछ अगम नहीं, जा पर तुम अनुकूल, तब प्रभाव बढ़वा नहीं, जाए सके खलुतूल। भावार्थ यह है कि जिस पर उसके लिए भी कुछ भी कठिन नहीं है। के राष्ट्रीय सुरक्षा सलाहकार अजीत डोभाल जी का जनरल बिपिन रावत की पहली पुण्यतिथि पर वो हमारे बीच में थे, और आज